everybody, this is Chris with Overclockersclub. We've got some cool new memory to check out today from TEAMGROUP. Okay, so taking a look at this in a little more detail, this is DDR5, so it's the latest and greatest. There are two sticks here, each one is 16 gigabytes for a total of 32. We are running at 6,000 megahertz. We've got a lifetime warranty. It does support Intel XMP, that feature, and we'll talk about that a little later, but it is XMP certified. And let's see, is there anything else interesting? Oh, this is, it comes in black and white. These are black. And this is RGB memory, so we'll see some RGB effects across the top if you're into the RGB stuff. So let's take a look. And one thing to mention here, I'm going to open this, but before I really handle the memory, since it is winter time now and the humidity has dropped, you really have to watch static electricity, static discharge when you're handling sensitive electrical components. I've never had a problem with handling memory, but I don't want there to be a first time. So you can pick up one of these little anti-static wrist straps. I don't know, $4 or $5. They're not very much. And you want to connect this end to a known ground. And this way, you'll reduce the chances of zapping your electrical components. So let me get this attached. Okay, there we go. Not going to make a fashion statement, but that's okay. All right, so we've got two sticks of the memory here. Again, these are each 16 gigabytes for a total of 32, and you can see the RGB effects reside in the top part of the memory, and it sort of connects the two heat spreaders here on either side. These metal pieces here are designed to dissipate the heat. There's a little TEAMGROUP sticker. And usually, I'll have to look into it, there's software that you can go in and control the RGB effects, or you can disable it altogether if you don't want those RGB effects turned on. Okay, so let's look at the information here. Okay, so the specs here, we've got a CL 30-36 3676 at 1.3 volts, and we'll get in to the specifications here after I get the memory installed, and we'll take a look at that. And actually, before we dig into the specs, let's take a look at what TEAMGROUP is, or what they offer. If you're not familiar with TEAMGROUP, this is interesting here. So if we look at the products here, you can see we've got memory modules. We've got a variety of memory here that you can choose from. We're looking at the Delta over here. Today we've even got some different flavors of the Delta, black and white, all kinds of different speeds. There's Vulcan, there's Delta Tough. Let's see, oh, we've got quite a bit here. So you can scroll right through all the different types of memory. So they've got the memory here for your laptop, DDR5, we've got desktop memory. Let's see, we've also got SSDs, quite a range of SSDs also. You've got your NVMe drives, you've got your 3.5-inch drives also. I know they're available. Other products that they've got, memory cards, if you need a little SD card, they've got those. And what else? USB drives. If you need a flash drive, they've got quite a variety of flash drives, different capacities, different speeds. And then peripherals, let's see, what have we got? Okay, we've got, actually, yeah, we've got a gaming case. I'd forgotten about that. They've got some coolers. They've got quite an array of coolers, actually. I always think of TEAMGROUP for memory and SSDs, but they've got a little bit more than that. Now, if you want to see like a catalog version, you go back to the TEAMGROUP Inc. Page, and you come up here to support, and right here there's download catalog. You click on that and it will load a nice little catalog, and you can sort of scroll through it and see the product lineup right here. So you go through the memory modules and you go into solid state drives, fans, coolers, all kinds of good stuff there. 46 pages of stuff that you can scroll through. And you can download a data sheet here that goes into more details about the Delta kits here. So here are the main features. One thing I need to look at is the lighting effects software down here so that we can play around with the RGB effects. But if you scroll down, we go into the specifications for all of the different variations, speeds, capacities. This is good for helping you pick out exactly what you want and seeing what's available, and then the part numbers. Now for this particular kit that we're looking at today, the Delta A, T-Force Delta A DDR5, you can see we've got several different varieties that are available. All the way on the far left you can see the highest speed in this particular variety is 6400. And then we've got some different variations there. You've got 16 gigabyte kit, which is 2 8s. You've got a 32 gigabyte kit. You've got, let's see, then we go down into 6200 speed. There's only one version of that. The 6000, which is what we're looking at today, we've got 5 different varieties there in 16 gigabyte kits up to 32 gigabyte kits. And we've got different speeds within that range, or I should say different timings within that range also. And here's an example here. Here is the Extreme DDR5 desktop memory kit. We go all the way up to 8200 megahertz, so that is screaming fast. And when you get to that range, sometimes you can have issues with a motherboard that doesn't like to play at that speed. So eventually I'd like to get a couple of these kits and test them out. And really I should clarify, you need to make sure that your memory, whatever you select, is on the QVL or the qualified vendor list for that motherboard. And pretty much every motherboard I've ever seen has a listing that shows all the memory that's basically been tested and qualified to run on that motherboard. And you also need to make sure you have the latest BIOS. Okay, so let me back up again real quick here. So I said that there's a QVL list on the motherboard manufacturer's site for each motherboard. Actually, here on the TEAMGROUP site, if we come up here to support at the top, right here, and that brings up this little section here, which is right below the download catalog that we looked at earlier. Compatibility checks. So they've done the work for you. So you click on that, and it goes by motherboard or by TEAMGROUP product. We're going to look at motherboard, and my motherboard right now for my test system is an MSI. And I can click here. It should bring up the different chipsets. Give it a moment. There we go. And then this is a Z790, and this is a Wi-Fi. This is not a DDR4. This is a carbon Wi-Fi right there. And then you hit the search, and we should come up with, there we go. So this is all the memory that has been verified to work with this motherboard, and there is one heck of a selection here across all of the different models that are available. So mine is, let's see, it is right here. So they've got it in black and white, but this is the kit we're looking at here today. Okay, so I pulled out the Mushkin memory here. This is actually pretty good memory too, and we'll talk about it in a separate review. We'll go ahead and get this fired up. A lot of times the first time you fire up a system with fresh memory, it takes the system a moment to become acclimated to it. Got some cable clutter in the way here. There you can see the RGB effects have kicked in. So you can see it's along the top, and then the little R there sort of has the RGB effects also. So we'll give this a moment to fire up. So my system just detected that it had new memory in it, and it should go into the BIOS here. Let's see. Okay, so it dumps into the BIOS, and let's see, I'll show you what the XMP does. All right, so I got the camera a little more stabilized there. All right, so if you look right here, you can see neither one of these are selected. You've got iExpo and you've got XMP. XMP is for Intel motherboards, and iExpo is for AMD motherboards. But you see we've got XMP1 and 2, and you can select either one. Sometimes there's only one choice for XMP, just XMP1, and sometimes you've got 3 choices for XMP. But if we look at XMP1 and we come over here and click the memory, you can see what that does. So as we look over here, we can see what our 2 options are. So we can see we've got 4 slots. We're only using 2 of them. We have 2 sticks of memory. Right here, these are your 2 potential profiles here. You got profile 1, profile 2. And if you select profile 1, you will get your 6,000 megahertz clock speed. And you can see the timings and the voltages are a little different here between the 2. So we can run at a little slower speed, and our timings change, and we're running at a little less voltage. So those are your 2 different selections, and you can try out either one of these and see how your system performs. So right now, if I reboot, I'm going to start in XMP1, and if I wanted to, I could select 2, and it would boot up in XMP2 mode. And I should go over the specifications for the system here with you. I'm using an MSI MPG Z790 carbon Wi-Fi motherboard. The processor is a 13th generation Intel Core i9-13900K. Again, we know what the memory is. So let's go ahead and do the reboot, and we'll pull everything up in XMP1 mode first. Okay, so the system powered up all nicely, no problems. And again, that's in XMP1. So what I'll do is I'll run some benchmarks here with a couple different sets of memory. And what we're going to do here is try and determine if the speed really makes a difference and going from XMP1 and XMP2. Is there a difference? And if so, really how much is there? So I'll run some synthetic benchmarks, and then I'll do some gaming benchmarks to really see, again, if it makes a difference, how much. And here are the benchmarks for the gaming and the synthetic testing that I did. You'll notice here we've got the 3 different memory sets that I tested. We've got the Kingston Fury Beast, the Mushkin, and of course the TEAMGROUP that we're looking at today. And this isn't really apples to apples, so I'm not comparing the same speeds. If these were the same speeds, if they were all 6,000 for example, and the timings were the same, then the results from the testing, you wouldn't really be able to tell which was which. There would be very little variation. So my goal here was to sort of answer the question, can you really tell a difference with the different speeds? And gaming performance, if we look at the numbers here, there's really very little. I would say you're almost within the margin of error. And even the synthetic benchmarks, sure, it scales where things, the faster you go, the better the performance, the better the numbers. But it's still nothing where I think you would really be able to tell a whole lot. You always want to go with a faster memory if you can. What it comes down to me really then is going to be capacity. How much memory do I need? Do I want to spend the extra money for more memory? The speed here, again, normal usage, are you going to be able to tell when you open programs? It's going to open faster here. Is it enough that you're going to be able to notice it? Again, probably not. And your gaming performance is really GPU bound, and to a lesser degree CPU bound, and not so much on memory. Now, as for overclocking, that could be a whole video all by itself on how to overclock memory. And every manufacturer, their memory is going to handle overclocking a little differently, even from model to model within a particular manufacturer. But anyway, for the most part, you can get into your BIOS and you can tweak your settings, and then you can run your stability test to see if your overclock will hold. A lot of times it's really just diminishing returns. You don't get a lot of bang for your buck given the amount of time you have to spend tweaking all of your settings and trying to find a sweet spot where your memory won't cause your system to blue screen. So really, just put it into your XMP or your Expo mode if you got an AMD board, and run with that. Okay, so real quick spoiler alert here. I'm going to be talking in this next section about the RGB effects, and I go down the path of trying to find the software that controls this, software that's from TEAMGROUP. Turns out there really isn't any. They don't supply any. I was thinking they did, so I was going to spend some time looking for it. But really the software that you're going to be using is whatever comes with your motherboard. So since I'm using an MSI motherboard, you're going to be using the MSI center. And that's how you control the RGB, not with any third-party proprietary software. So you can kind of skip ahead through a lot of the next section. It's really me trying to get the MSI center set up. It took me a couple of tries, but I got it. So like I said, you need to use the motherboard software. There's nothing from TEAMGROUP. Okay, so now we'll take a look at some of the RGB effects, and there are a couple ways to do it. When you're on the main page here for this memory, this Delta memory, there's an introduction section. You want to make sure you're on that. And if you scroll down to the bottom, or almost the bottom, it shows right here that it supports these different platforms for different motherboards. So we've got an MSI motherboard, and MSI uses something they call Mystic Light Sync. And you can also, let's see, where is it? You can download software here, so we'll look at that a little later, but first I want to look and see how well we can control it with the Mystic Light. So what I do is I get into the MSI center right here, and under features we've got Mystic Light, and I can link everything together, which is the motherboard, the memory, and the mouse. Those are the only things I've got that are RGB controllable here, or I can control them separately. So let's do a link, and we've got it set for rainbow mode. So let's see what's happening over here on the motherboard, and it looks like we've got, yeah, sort of a rainbow effect going on there. And if we go back here to the controls, I can control the DRAM independently. So let's see if I go to, let's just do a, let's do flashing and see what we get. So if I hit apply, give that a moment, and let's see what happens here. So we've got one of them flashing and one is in rainbow mode. So let's see if we can figure out what's going on. Okay, so I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong. It only seems to affect the one module because I actually turned the RGB off, and one of them is off and the other is still in the rainbow mode. And no luck. So for whatever reason, I can't seem to control the two modules at the same time. I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's the MSI software here or what. It does have a way to, you can turn off, let's see, if I go over to Mystic Light settings, it does say Mystic Light will override third-party RGB software after system restart. What you can run into is if you've got multiple RGB software running on your system, sometimes they will sort of fight each other and you'll get weird, sort of weird things happen with your RGB effects. It would be nice if somebody would come up with an open source standardization that would just, everybody could use the same platform to control RGB across the board. But I don't know, maybe there's something out there that I'm just not aware of yet. But anyway, let me see if I can get this to work. If not, we'll move on to the software from TEAMGROUP. So there's actually a software update to the Mystic Light right here. We'll let that update, do a reboot, and then we'll give it another attempt. Okay, so after the reboot, they both seem to work together. Let's try a different, let's see if we've got, let's go back to rainbow, hit apply, and so they are both in rainbow mode. Okay, now let's go back and see if I can link everything together. Hit the apply and give it a moment, and yep, I would say looks like it's working. So there must have been something odd going on, and then after the update it's playing nicely. I wasn't sure with the DRAM here, it only represents, you know, one, and that's why I was like, well, maybe it's supposed to show too, but apparently this is the way it's supposed to work. Okay, let's take a look at some pricing. This particular kit right now is, let's see, $109, nice discount there. And this is the 32 gigabyte kit, so you get two 16 gigabyte modules. This does come in black or white, and we have different configurations here depending upon how you want to stock your system. Like I said, overall, no problems. It boots up. I recommend just sticking with your XMP profile if you're on an Intel board. RGB, it works fine also once you figure out just to use the software that comes with the motherboard. So, with all that in mind, I would give this the Overclockers Club Gold Award. So this is Chris with Overclockers Club. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.